everybody, this is a video on some of the formulas that you need for your water park project. So the first thing that we're going to do is slope, and that is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. Change in y over change in x. Rise over run. This is x1, this is y1. This is x2, this is y2. So change in y, 2 minus negative 1. Hello. Divided by 5 minus 4. 2 minus negative 1, remember, is 3 because a negative makes us a positive, subtracting a negative. So this is 3 over 1. You have x1, y1, x2, y2. So change in y over change in x. This would be undefined. We cannot divide by 0. So if I think about where these points would be, maybe you can draw a little bit straighter here. 0, 6 would be here, 0, 8 would be there, does not pass the vertical line test. Therefore, our slope is undefined. Okay, here's x1, y1 again, x2, y2. So we have change in y over change in x. Negative 5 minus 1 is negative 6. And negative 4 minus minus 2. This minus minus becomes a plus, and negative 6 divided by negative 2 is 3 again. Okay, last one, x1, y1, x2, y2, change in y over change in x. This is 0 over 2, which would be a 0 slope. If we think about what these would look like, 5, 1, 7, 1, they're in line with each other horizontally with a slope of 0. Okay, the next thing was midpoint. To find the midpoint, we're actually finding the middle point. It's just what it sounds like, midpoint, middle point. So we take the x's and we add them together and divide it by 2, because we're finding the halfway point. And we take the y's and add them together and divide by 2. Your answer is going to be an ordered pair. So 4 plus 6 is 10, divided by 2 is 5. 22 plus 12 is what? 34 divided by 2 is 17. So if I think about these points, I'm not going to be able to graph them out perfectly here, but 412 would be somewhere like that. 622 would be somewhere like that. The midpoint is just the point halfway in between, 5, 17. That would just cut this line just directly in half. Okay. Adding my x's, dividing by 2, adding my y's, divided by 2. So negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3, and negative 3 divided by 2 is negative 1.5. 10 plus 13 is 23, divided by 2 is going to be, whoopsies, not 15, 23 divided by 2, what would that be, about 11.5? All right. Add our x's together. 1 plus 2 divided by 2, that's 1.5. And then 4 plus 7 divided by 2. What's that? 11 divided by 2, 5.5. All right, this one's interesting. 3 plus 3 divided by 2. It's just 3. And then 3 plus 11 is 14, divided by 2 is 7. Okay, the distance formula. Now, this isn't really something that we can look at on our project and actually see it. The distance formula is actually telling you how far it is between these 2 points. So we know slope is how much up and how much over. So we would go maybe up 4 over 5, something like that. But our distance formula is going to actually tell us this diagonal length. Distance formula, you take the x's, you subtract them. You take the y's, you subtract them. You square, you add together, and you square root. So we'll go nice and slow, step by step. x1, y1, x2, y2. Okay, first, take the x's, subtract them. So I have negative 3 minus 1, and I'm going to square that. Then I have my y's, negative 6 minus 5, and I'm going to square that. I add those together, and I square root. So we've got to follow order of operations. We've got to follow PEMDAS. So parentheses first. Negative 3 minus 1 is negative 4. Negative 6 minus 5 is negative 11. Now we'll square them. Squaring is always positive, and negative times a negative is a positive. So this becomes 16 and 121. Add those together for a total of 137. Okay, next one. x1, y1, x2, y2. So that's a 1. So subtract our x's. 9 minus 3. Subtract my y's. 10 minus 8. 9 minus 3 is 6. 10 minus 8 is 2. 6 squared is 36. 2 squared is 4. Add them together, you get square root 40. Now we know how to continue with this, breaking it down into its prime factorization. So 40 is 4 times 10. 4 is 2 times 2. 10 is 2 times 5. There's my group. So my final answer, 2 square root of 10. All right. x1, y1, x2, y2. Take my x's, subtract them, and square it. Take my y's, subtract them, and square it. Add those together, put it under the square root. So negative negative makes a positive. So negative 3 plus 9 is going to give me 6. 8 minus 0 is 8. So this is 36 plus 64, which adds to 100. And the square root of 100 is 10. Okay, last one here. Square root of, we have 5 minus negative 10, and we have 3 minus 1. That's going to give me 15. 15 and 2. Which is 225 and 4, which is 229. I don't believe that would break down at all. 229 is divisible by anything that's a perfect square. Okay, writing equations. So on your, well, I guess I'll finish that later.